Hey everyone, welcome back. I think we can all relate to that feeling, right? When you're trying to come up with a new password and it's like, ugh, this thing needs a capital letter, a number, a symbol. It's like, what am I writing a code?
Yeah, totally.
And then you finally come up with some crazy combination that you're never going to remember. And then
Yeah.
you have to change it again in like 3 months.
Right.
So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah.
All those old password rules, those like really complicated password rules are officially like out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST,
Yeah.
has just released a new cybersecurity framework, which has a whole section on all of these new, much better password best practices.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating stuff, actually.
So we're going to break it all down so you can stay ahead of the curve and, most importantly, keep all of your accounts safe and sound.
Definitely.
Okay, so first up, remember how we were just talking about those crazy complex passwords? Yeah, well, get ready for this. They're out. Gone.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, gone.
It's amazing, right? Like, I think everybody kind of knew it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, who can even remember all that stuff anyway?
Yeah.
But, I mean, what's the logic behind this?
Well, it all boils down to this idea that, for years we focused on complexity, right?
Yeah.
It was all about making these passwords just super complicated, upper and lowercase, numbers, special characters. But here's the thing. Those passwords, those complicated passwords that we were all struggling to create often ended up being, like, surprisingly predictable.
Really?
Yeah. And that's a hacker's dream, right? Like, predictable patterns, it's like an open invitation.
So is it like they're using some kind of program or something that's like cracking these codes?
Exactly. They have sophisticated tools, and those tools can tear through all of those possibilities, like, really fast.
Oh, wow.
But when you have a longer passphrase, even one that uses, just normal everyday words strung together, that creates, like, a vastly larger number of possibilities for hackers to try to guess from.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like searching for a needle in a haystack versus a needle in the entire universe.
Yeah.
Way harder for them.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's a pretty good analogy.
Right.
Okay, so complex passwords are out. What's in?
Passphrases. Longer is definitely better.
Got it. Longer passphrases. And speaking of longer, how long are we talking? Because I was looking at the framework earlier, and they're now recommending passwords up to 64 characters.
64. I know, it sounds a little crazy, right?
I mean, are we supposed to be writing a novel for every single website we log into?
No, of course not. Most people are not going to need, like, a 64-character password.
Right.
But, the option is there for those who are, super security conscious or maybe work with, like, super sensitive information.
Right.
The main point is it's about flexibility.
Okay.
You can choose what works best for you and your own personal security needs.
Okay, makes sense.
But even a 12-character passphrase is still a huge improvement over a shorter, more complex password.
Okay, so it's like strength and memorableness.
Memorableness, yes, that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to remember these things.
I know, because otherwise you're just going to end up writing it down on a sticky note and putting it on your monitor.
Exactly, and then it defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. But okay, so let's say I've got my super long, super memorable passphrase. Feeling good? Am I good? Is that all I need to do?
Well, you're just definitely on the right track, right?
Yeah.
But sadly, in today's world, passwords alone just aren't enough to keep your accounts truly secure.
Okay, why not? I mean, I've got a good one now.
You do, but think about it. Like, we hear about these data breaches all the time. It's a constant thing now.
All the time.
And the NIST report actually cites this pretty startling statistic from Microsoft.
Right.
That 99% of compromised accounts, those accounts that got hacked, lacked something called multi-factor authentication.
MFA.
Or MFA. Yeah, 99%. So basically, if you don't have MFA, it's almost a guaranteed breach. Yikes. Okay, so what exactly is MFA and why is it so effective?
Okay, so MFA, it's basically like adding an extra layer of verification on top of your password.
Okay.
So think of it like a double lock on your front door. You might have that strong deadbolt, but an extra lock just makes it that much harder for someone to break in.
Right.
So with MFA, it could be a code from an app on your phone, like a Google Authenticator app,
Right.
Or it could be a biometric scan, like a fingerprint or a face scan. Or you can even get a physical security key that you plug into your computer.
Oh, wow.
There's a bunch of different ways to do it.
Okay.
But no matter how you choose to set it up, MFA makes it dramatically harder for those hackers to get into your accounts, even if they somehow manage to get a hold of your password.
Okay, yeah. So it's like even if they like pick the lock on your front door, they still can't get in because there's a deadbolt too.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so MFA is a must. Must have.
Must have got it. Okay, now I have to admit, there's another change in these guidelines that has me, like, personally very excited. No more mandatory password resets. Like,
Okay.
thank goodness.
I know, right? That one's a big relief.
It is a big relief.
I think we were all kind of getting tired of that one.
Yeah, just constantly having to come up with new passwords every few months.
And honestly, it turns out it actually makes things less secure.
Really? Wait, why?
Yeah. So, when you're forced to change your password all the time,
Yeah.
what happens is people get tired of like constantly trying to come up with these new variations, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they end up falling back on predictable patterns or making really simple changes, like just adding a number to the end of their old password.
Right.
And ironically, that actually makes their passwords much easier to guess.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's like the opposite of what they were trying to do.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
It was well-intentioned, but yeah, it kind of backfired.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that. Like, oh, I have to change my password again. I'll just add it to the end of it this time.
Totally. Or like change the year, you know?
Yeah. Or just like password 1, password 2, password 3.
Exactly. And the NIST framework actually gives some pretty funny examples of these like common, password changes that people make. And it's just like, oh my gosh, that is so predictable.
Yeah.
And so by eliminating these mandatory resets, what it does is it reduces that password fatigue that we were all experiencing. It allows people to focus on creating one really strong, memorable passphrase
Yeah.
that they can actually remember without having to resort to all those bad habits.
Okay. So we've got the longer passphrases, we've got MFA, we've got the end of mandatory password resets. Anything else we need to know about?
Well, one more thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something called blocking breached passwords.
Blocking breached passwords. What is that?
Okay, so this one's a little bit more technical, but
Really?
basically it's all about being proactive, right? Imagine this like massive database out there on the internet filled with like tons of passwords that have already been exposed in all these different data breaches that have happened over the years.
Right.
And so blocking breached passwords basically means that like when you go to create a new password,
Yeah.
the system that you're on, like a website or whatever, can check your new password against that database.
Okay.
And it'll warn you if you're trying to use a password that's already been compromised.
Wait, so you're saying that, like, I could be trying to use a password that's already, like, floating around on the dark web somewhere,
Exactly.
and the system would stop me from doing that?
It would stop you. Yeah. It's like a safety net, right? It's like, whoa, hold on. You don't want to use that one.
That's amazing. Okay, so longer passphrase, MFA, no more resets, breach checking.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, what about those old school security questions? Like, what street did you grow up on? Or what's your mother's maiden name?
Oh, yeah.
Are those still a thing?
They used to be. Yeah.
Back in the day, they were like the go-to way to like recover your account if you forgot your password.
Right. Yeah.
But honestly, they're not as secure as they used to be.
Why not?
Well, with so much personal information, like readily available online these days, social media and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that hard to find out someone's mother's maiden name or the street they grew up on with just a quick Google search,
Yeah, that's true.
So the NIST guidelines actually recommend that we all move away from those traditional security questions and opt for something that's a little more secure.
Okay. Like what?
Well, like email or SMS verification codes, for example.
Right.
Or even better, using MFA for account recovery.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you do forget your password, you can use your MFA method to get back in.
Okay. So it's like adapting to the new world.
Exactly. It's all about adapting to that ever-evolving threat landscape,
Yeah.
Like the bad guys are always coming up with new ways to try to get into our accounts.
Right.
So we've got to stay ahead of the game.
Stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant, yes.
Okay, so that's all the new password best practices.
Pretty much, yeah. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did.
But I think the most important thing to remember is that all of these changes are not only more secure, but they're also more user-friendly,
Right.
which is pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win for everybody.
I love that. It's like security doesn't have to be a total pain.
Exactly.
It can actually be like kind of easy and convenient.
Exactly, yeah.
So on that note, what's like the one big takeaway that you hope our listeners walk away with today?
That's a good question. I guess the biggest takeaway would be that Online security doesn't have to be a burden. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this big scary thing. Like by embracing these new best practices, we can all make our digital lives safer and more secure without sacrificing convenience.
Yeah.
It's all about being proactive,
Yeah.
staying informed and just being willing to adapt to that ever-changing landscape of cyber threats. Love it. Great advice. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, stay safe, stay secure, and remember, Llama Shoehorn Trumpet 7,
The best password.
the best password ever. We'll see you next time.